The pounding on my front door came before sunrise, jolting me awake with a start. I fumbled for my phone, squinting at the harsh blue light. 5:47 a.m. The knocking continued, louder now, accompanied by a voice calling, "Police! Open up!" My heart pounded as I pulled on sweatpants, my mind racing through possible reasons for this pre-dawn visit. Nothing could have prepared me for what came next. When I opened the door, the cold morning air hit me like a slap. Please comment below where you're watching from and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. Two uniformed officers stood on my porch, their faces set in grim expressions. Behind them, the flashing blue lights of their squad car painted my quiet suburban street in alternating pulses of light and shadow. The taller officer, a man with close-cropped gray hair and tired eyes, held out a thick manila envelope. "Evan Dawson?" he asked, though we'd lived in this house for nearly a decade. "We need you to come with us." His partner, a younger cop with his hand resting near his taser, shifted uncomfortably on his feet. The documents inside that envelope turned my blood to ice. Emergency protective order, temporary full custody, allegations of domestic violence, threats, and emotional abuse, all filed by my ex-wife Rachel. Every word was a carefully constructed lie, but seeing them printed on official court letterhead made my hands shake. According to these papers, I'd supposedly attacked Rachel 3 days earlier during our daughter Lily's custody exchange. The report described in vivid detail how I'd shoved Rachel against the garage wall, screamed threats about taking Lily away forever, and left visible bruises around her wrists. There were witness statements from neighbors, medical documentation, even notes from Lily's therapist about her supposed fear of me. The truth was far simpler, and far more disturbing. I hadn't seen Rachel in nearly 3 weeks. Our last custody exchange had been completely routine. Lily had spent her scheduled time with me. Rachel had picked her up on Sunday evening as usual, and that was that. No arguments, no confrontation, nothing that could possibly justify these outrageous claims. The officer pointed to a specific date and time on the order, Tuesday at 7:15 p.m. "Your wife says this is when the incident occurred," he said in a tone that suggested he'd already made up his mind. "We have multiple witness statements and medical records corroborating her account." I nearly laughed at the absurdity. "That's impossible," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. At exactly 7:15 on Tuesday, I was at the Shell station off Highway 9 filling up my car. I've got the receipt in my glove compartment and credit card records to prove it. The younger officer exchanged a glance with his partner. "Sir, we're just here to serve the order," he said, his voice carefully neutral. "You'll need to take that up with the judge." As they stood there waiting for me to pack a bag, I glanced up at Lily's bedroom window. The curtain twitched, and for just a moment I saw my 7-year-old daughter's small hand clutching the fabric, her wide eyes peering through the gap. My sweet, confused little girl was watching her father get escorted out of his own home based on nothing but her mother's lies. That moment, seeing Lily's terrified face in the window, changed something fundamental in me. This wasn't just Rachel being difficult or playing games with the custody arrangement. This was nuclear warfare, an all-out assault on my relationship with my daughter. My lawyer, Mark Higgins, met me at his office before the sun had fully risen. He'd represented me through the divorce and knew Rachel's tendencies better than anyone. As he read through the paperwork, his expression darkened with each page. "Evan," he said finally, rubbing his temples, "this is textbook parental alienation. She's weaponizing the legal system to completely rewrite history." He explained how family courts treat domestic violence allegations with extreme seriousness, often operating on a better safe than sorry principle that created an immediate presumption of guilt. "We have 72 hours until the emergency hearing," Mark said, leaning forward across his desk. "In that time, we need irrefutable proof you weren't at that house when she claims the incident happened. Receipts, surveillance footage, anything that definitively places you somewhere else." That's when I remembered the dash cam. After a hit-and-run accident last month, I'd installed a high-end dash camera that recorded continuously whenever the car was running. It had GPS tracking and precise timestamp data embedded in every frame. I raced to the police impound lot where my car had been taken, another lovely perk of the restraining order. The footage was still there, crystal clear. At exactly 7:15 p.m. on Tuesday, the precise moment Rachel claimed I was attacking her, the dashcam showed me standing at a gas pump at the Shell station off Highway 9, 40 miles from our house. I was clearly visible in the frame, swiping my credit card and filling my tank while chatting with the attendant about the upcoming football game. It wasn't much, but it was a start. The first crack in Rachel's carefully constructed facade. That first night in a dingy motel room that smelled of stale cigarettes and industrial cleaner, I began piecing together the full scope of Rachel's scheme. The more I looked, the more disturbing the pattern became. The witness statements all came from Rachel's inner circle: her best friend Melissa, who conveniently lived next door, her brother, who worked as a nurse practitioner and could access medical records, and her yoga instructor, who'd never even met me but suddenly had detailed observations about my volatile temper. The medical records showed bruises that perfectly matched photos Rachel had texted me weeks earlier when she claimed to have fallen during a solo hiking trip. At the time, I'd thought nothing of it, just Rachel being dramatic as usual. Now I realized she'd been carefully documenting evidence for months. Most chilling of all were Lily's recent drawings from her therapy sessions, which had suddenly begun featuring angry daddy figures with exaggerated frowns and raised fists. Our sweet, happy child, who'd never shown the slightest fear of me, was now being coached to depict me as a monster. At midnight, as I sat staring at the dashcam footage on my laptop, Mark called with the final piece of the puzzle. "Rachel filed for sole custody today," he said, his voice tight with anger. "She's claiming prolonged emotional abuse and requesting termination of your parental rights entirely." I sat on that scratchy motel bedspread, the glow of the laptop screen the only light in the room, and realized with cold clarity what Rachel was really doing. This wasn't just about getting more custody time or child support. She wasn't just trying to take Lily away from me. She was trying to erase me from our daughter's life completely. And she was willing to destroy my reputation, my career, and possibly even my freedom to make it happen. But Rachel had made one critical miscalculation in her carefully laid plans. She'd underestimated just how hard a father would fight for his child. As the first light of dawn filtered through the thin motel curtains, I made myself a promise. I would use every resource, follow every lead, and leave no stone unturned until I exposed Rachel's lies and brought my daughter home. This was war now, and I intended to win. The morning sunlight streamed through the blinds of my temporary motel room as I prepared for what would become the most important day of my life. The emergency custody hearing loomed ahead, and I knew every detail mattered. My lawyer, Mark Higgins, had warned me this would be an uphill battle, but I was determined to fight for my daughter with everything I had. As I sat in Mark's office reviewing the case files, the weight of Rachel's deception became clearer. She had constructed an elaborate web of lies, and we needed to dismantle it piece by piece. Mark explained that Rachel's case rested on 3 pillars we needed to challenge. First was the alleged violent incident itself, which my dashcam footage already contradicted. Second were the medical records documenting her supposed injuries. Third were the witness statements from neighbors and professionals backing her claims. The dashcam footage showed me at a gas station miles away during the time Rachel claimed I attacked her. Mark stressed we needed to authenticate this evidence thoroughly. He immediately contacted a forensic video expert to verify the footage's integrity and obtain certification that it hadn't been altered. This would be crucial when Rachel's lawyer inevitably challenged its validity. When we examined the medical records more closely, Mark noticed something disturbing. The physician who had examined Rachel and documented her injuries was Dr. Robert Chen from Westside Urgent Care. The name sent a chill down my spine. That was Rachel's younger brother Bobby, who had recently completed his medical residency. The conflict of interest was glaring, and Mark made note to challenge the validity of these records in court. The witness statements painted an equally troubling picture. Rachel's best friend Melissa, who lived next door, claimed to have heard shouting and violent altercations coming from our garage. Another neighbor reported seeing me storm out of the house looking furious on multiple occasions. Most concerning was the testimony from Lily's therapist, Dr. Abrams, who described our daughter's increased anxiety around male figures and shared disturbing drawings where I was depicted as an angry, violent figure. Mark handed me a legal pad and instructed me to document every interaction with Rachel over the past 6 months. As I wrote, a disturbing pattern emerged. Rachel had been carefully constructing this narrative for months. Back in February, she had texted me photos of bruises on her arms, claiming she got them during a hiking fall. In March, she began insisting on recording all our custody exchanges. Just last week, Lily had come home from therapy asking why I yelled so much. Despite me never raising my voice to her, a shocking realization hit me when I checked my phone's location history. During our divorce proceedings, Rachel had requested access to my location data under the guise of coordinating custody exchanges. The record showed she had been monitoring my whereabouts multiple times a week. She knew exactly where I was when she fabricated that Tuesday night incident. The courthouse waiting area buzzed with tension when we arrived for the hearing. Rachel sat perfectly composed in a conservative navy dress, her hair pulled back severely. When our eyes met, she actually flinched and grabbed her lawyer's arm in a show of fear that would have been convincing if I didn't know the truth. Rachel's attorney opened with dramatic flair, painting me as a dangerous abuser. He played a 911 call where Rachel whispered in a terrified voice about someone breaking in, followed by loud banging noises. The timestamp matched exactly with when I was supposedly attacking her, the same time my dash cam showed me pumping gas miles away. When Mark presented our evidence, Rachel's lawyer immediately objected, claiming the footage could have been altered. But Mark was prepared. He produced a notarized statement from the gas station manager confirming their security system had captured me there. Then he dropped the bombshell about Rachel's brother signing the medical reports. The judge, a sharp-eyed woman with decades of experience, fixed Rachel with a penetrating gaze. "Ms. Dawson, is it true you sought medical treatment from your own brother for these alleged injuries?" Rachel's face drained of color as she stammered out an excuse about not realizing he was working that night. During the lunch recess, Mark received a crucial call from his investigator. Rachel had purchased professional audio equipment just 2 days before making that 911 call. The timing was too perfect to be coincidence. When court resumed, the judge modified the restraining order to allow me supervised visits with Lily and scheduled a full evidentiary hearing in 2 weeks. Most importantly, she ordered Rachel to surrender her phone for forensic examination. That evening at the visitation center, my heart broke seeing how small and frightened Lily looked. She clung to her favorite stuffed rabbit and whispered words that shattered me. "Mommy says you're dangerous." When I asked what else Mommy had told her, Lily revealed Rachel had been coaching her to tell the therapist I yelled. Even though I never raised my voice to her, driving back to the motel, the full horror of Rachel's manipulation became clear. This wasn't just about hurting me. She was willing to psychologically damage our daughter to win. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, knowing the dash cam footage was just the beginning. To get Lily back, I would need to expose every lie, follow every lead, and prove beyond doubt that Rachel had orchestrated this entire scheme. The next morning brought renewed determination. I would get my daughter back no matter the cost. Rachel had started this war, but I would finish it, armed with truth and fueled by love for my child. The road ahead would be difficult, but seeing Lily's confused, frightened face at that visitation center had hardened my resolve. This fight was only beginning, and I wouldn't rest until my daughter was safe from her mother's manipulations. The supervised visitation center had given me something precious: hope. Seeing Lily's confused expression when she whispered, "But you never yell, Daddy," played on repeat in my mind. That tiny moment of clarity from my 7-year-old daughter became the fuel that kept me going through the darkest days. 2 days after the hearing, Mark called with unexpected news. The judge approved our request for Lily's iPad, he said, the excitement clear in his voice. "Rachel has to turn it over tomorrow morning." During our last visit, I'd noticed Lily clutching her tablet like a security blanket. If Rachel had been coaching her, there might be evidence in the device's history. The morning the iPad arrived at Mark's office, we powered it on with bated breath. The device automatically connected to the office Wi-Fi and began syncing with Lily's iCloud account. As notifications popped up, my stomach twisted. There were dozens of screenshots from Rachel's text conversations with her best friend Melissa. The messages revealed everything. Rachel had been meticulously planning this for months. One exchange showed her telling Melissa, "Make sure you describe his black jacket," followed by, "The judge will eat this up." Another thread detailed exactly what bruises to photograph and where. The most disturbing messages involved Lily's therapy sessions. "Tell Dr. Abrams L has been wetting the bed since the last visit with Evan," Rachel had written, followed by, "We need that PTSD diagnosis for court." But the real smoking gun came when we checked the voice memos. Among Lily's recordings of herself singing and telling stories, we found several files labeled therapy prep. These contained Rachel coaching our daughter in a sickeningly sweet voice. "Now remember, sweetie, when Dr. Abrams asks how Daddy acts, what do you say?" A pause, then Lily's small voice responding, "He gets mad and shouts." "Good girl. And what does he do when he's angry?" Another pause. He throws things?" The uncertainty in Lily's voice broke my heart. Mark immediately had the iPad sent to a forensic specialist to preserve the evidence. "This changes everything," he said, pacing his office. "This isn't just false allegations. This is conspiracy to commit fraud against the court." He warned me the road ahead would get uglier before it got better. Rachel would fight tooth and nail when she realized we had this evidence. That afternoon, we filed an emergency motion to suspend Rachel's custody pending investigation. The family court judge, now fully aware something was amiss, granted our request and scheduled another hearing for the following week. Most importantly, she ordered Lily to be placed in temporary foster care rather than leaving her with Rachel. A clear sign the court was taking this seriously. When Rachel was served with the new orders, her reaction was predictably explosive. She showed up at my motel screaming obscenities, forcing the manager to call the police. As officers escorted her away, she shouted something that chilled me to the bone. "You'll never prove anything. She's my daughter, not yours." The next few days passed in a blur of legal preparations. Mark's investigator uncovered more disturbing details. Rachel had taken out a $250,000 life insurance policy on me just 3 months earlier. Her brother Bobby had been prescribing her Xanax for PTSD while simultaneously documenting her injuries. The yoga instructor who provided a witness statement had never met me, but was dating Rachel's divorce attorney. The evidentiary hearing arrived with all the tension of a bomb about to detonate. The courtroom was packed. My parents, Rachel's family, even a local news reporter who'd caught wind of the scandalous case. Rachel arrived looking noticeably less composed than before, her eyes darting nervously around the room. When Mark presented the iPad evidence, the courtroom erupted. Rachel's attorney objected furiously, claiming the device had been hacked, but the forensic specialist testified that all the data came directly from Lily's iCloud account with intact metadata, proving authenticity. The most devastating moment came when Mark played the therapy prep recordings. Hearing Rachel manipulate our daughter's innocent voice sent gasps through the courtroom. Even the judge looked visibly shaken. When Rachel took the stand, her carefully constructed facade crumbled under questioning. She alternated between tearful denials and furious outbursts, at one point screaming at me across the courtroom. By the end of the hearing, the judge had seen enough. She suspended Rachel's custody rights entirely pending a full investigation, granted me temporary sole custody of Lily, and referred the case to the district attorney for potential criminal charges. As bailiffs escorted a sobbing Rachel from the courtroom, I finally allowed myself to breathe. That evening, I brought Lily home to my rented apartment. As I tucked her into bed in her new room, she looked up at me with those big brown eyes. "Daddy?" she asked sleepily. "Are you really not mad all the time?" I smoothed her hair and kissed her forehead. "No, baby, I'm just happy to have you home." But as I sat in the quiet living room later that night, I knew this wasn't over. Rachel would appeal. She would fight. She would never admit defeat. The legal battle might be winding down, but the emotional scars on my daughter would take much longer to heal. Tomorrow, I would start researching child therapists specializing in parental alienation cases. For tonight, I simply listened to the soft sounds of my sleeping daughter in the next room, finally home where she belonged. The first morning waking up with Lily back in my care felt like coming up for air after being underwater for months. Sunlight streamed through the apartment windows as I made pancakes in the shape of hearts, just like I used to when she was little. Lily watched me from the kitchen table, her small feet swinging beneath her chair, still unsure about this new reality. "Can I really stay with you now?" she asked between bites of syrup-drenched pancake. Her voice held a tentative hope that made my chest ache. "Yes, sweetheart," I said, pouring more batter into the pan. "You're staying with me from now on." I kept my tone light, but the weight of everything that had happened hung between us. The legal battle might be over, but the real work of healing was just beginning. That afternoon, we met with Dr. Bennett, a child psychologist specializing in parental alienation cases. Her office was warm and inviting, filled with toys and colorful artwork. Lily immediately gravitated toward a dollhouse in the corner while Dr. Bennett and I spoke. "Rebuilding trust will take time," she explained gently. "Lily's been caught in a loyalty bind, told one parent is dangerous while instinctively knowing that isn't true. That creates tremendous psychological conflict in a child." As if on cue, Lily looked up from the dollhouse. "My mommy said Daddy gets too angry," she announced matter-of-factly. Then she added in a whisper, "But he only got angry when Mommy lied." Dr. Bennett and I exchanged a look. That simple statement confirmed what I'd suspected. Lily had known all along. Children aren't fools. They might not understand adult motivations, but they recognize truth from falsehood in their bones. Meanwhile, the criminal case against Rachel gained momentum. The district attorney's office assigned a no-nonsense prosecutor named Alicia Mendez to what was now being treated as a serious case of perjury and attempted fraud against the court. "The recordings of her coaching Lily are particularly damning," Mendez told me during our first meeting. She flipped through the case file with a practiced eye. "We're also looking into insurance fraud for that suspicious life insurance policy, and we've referred her brother to the medical board for falsifying records." Rachel's response was predictable. She fired her original attorney and hired a high-powered criminal defense lawyer, who immediately began attacking the evidence. They claimed the iPad had been hacked, that the therapy recordings were taken out of context, that Rachel was simply a concerned mother trying to protect her child. The criminal trial began 3 months later, and the courtroom drama surpassed anything I could have imagined. Rachel's brother Bobby turned state's evidence almost immediately, admitting he'd falsified the medical reports in exchange for immunity. The yoga instructor recanted her witness statement, tearfully admitting she'd never actually seen me lose my temper. But the most devastating testimony came from an unexpected source: Melissa, Rachel's best friend and former co-conspirator. Facing her own conspiracy charges, she testified that Rachel had planned everything for months, even joking about how easy it would be to manipulate the family court system. "I never thought she'd actually go through with it," Melissa said on the stand, avoiding Rachel's glare. "I thought she just wanted better custody terms. When I realized she was trying to terminate Evan's rights completely, I wanted out." The jury deliberated for less than a day. Guilty on all counts: perjury, conspiracy, attempted fraud, and filing false police reports. The judge sentenced Rachel to 18 months in prison, though with good behavior she'd likely serve only 12. Standing in that courtroom hearing the verdict, I expected to feel triumph. Instead, I felt only profound sadness. The woman I'd once loved, the mother of my child, would now have a criminal record. Lily would have to process that reality someday. In the months that followed, we settled into a new normal. Lily started 2nd grade at a new school near our apartment. We attended weekly sessions with Dr. Bennett, who helped Lily untangle the web of confusion Rachel had spun. Slowly but surely, my happy, carefree little girl began to re-emerge. Rachel served 11 months and 3 weeks of her sentence. When she was released, the family court granted her supervised visitation rights, 1 hour every other week at a child services center. Lily went reluctantly at first, but Dr. Bennett assured me this was healthier than cutting off contact completely. "Children need to form their own conclusions," she explained. "With time and proper support, Lily will see the truth for herself." That truth came sooner than expected. One rainy afternoon after a visitation session, Lily climbed into the car looking thoughtful. "Mommy kept asking if you yell at me," she said as I buckled her seatbelt. "I told her you only yell when the football team drops the ball." She giggled at her own joke, and I couldn't help but laugh with her. As we drove home, windshield wipers keeping time with the radio, I realized this was the true victory. Not the courtroom wins or the prison sentence, but my daughter's ability to see through manipulation and recognize genuine love. The road ahead wouldn't always be easy. There would be more questions as Lily grew older, more difficult conversations about why her mother did what she did. But for now, in this moment, with my daughter singing along to the radio beside me, the storm had passed. We pulled into our apartment complex just as the rain stopped, and a shaft of sunlight broke through the clouds. Lily dashed through puddles to our front door, backpack bouncing, completely carefree. Watching her, I understood that while Rachel's actions had caused immense pain, they'd also revealed an important truth: the unshakable bond between a father and his daughter. No legal maneuver, no false allegation, no amount of manipulation could ever change that. And that knowledge was the greatest justice of all.